Intersection Magazine Podcast.
Welcome to Intersection Magazine Podcast. This is the third edition of our audio summary for Intersection Magazine for March 2024. And what we basically do is we'll give you kind of like a synopsis of what we cover in the magazine for those of you who don't necessarily have the time to subscribe but want to get highlights of what we covered in the magazine. Naturally, for us, or for me personally, I would prefer for you to subscribe, but there are those who actually just may for some reason not have time to read the magazine, or for some reason or the other maybe prefer audio over written text. And so this is just to give you a rough idea of what we cover. The plan is not to get too in-depth about the content in the magazine, because there are people who subscribe and who pay a subscription fee for the magazine, so naturally the content is preserved for them. But it's just to tease out some ideas that we're working on for those of you who may in the future want to research these areas, or maybe want to connect with us or with me. Some of the courses that I offer, some of the services that I have in my business. So that's why we put this together. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for listening. For those who are on Spotify, or for those who are on Apple Podcasts, we'd love for you to subscribe. And also, of course, engage with us. We are introducing just some simple polling for with questions about the episodes. So do participate in that too, so we get some feedback on how to get better. Once again, thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing. So the first part, as before, is with Linux. We are completing a section we started about 3 months ago, where we're talking about the Linux ecosystem. In this section, I basically talk about the importance of Linux user groups. We used to have a Linux user group in Uganda, as well as a free and open source software movement and office. I believe it was located in Nakawa. I'm not sure if they still exist, but the community was quite active. But these kinds of user groups are very good for you to participate in, for you to get engagement with, communication, and find out events happening in your area, whether those are webinars or workshops, where you can organize those yourself, get together a group of enthusiasts and have them work on projects related to the current or Linux system that you're using, or maybe specific other distributions. Then we also mentioned the difference between RPM and DEB packages, talked about different distributions, we talked about MSI files, and this was really just to help you understand different systems, because we distinguish between Unix, Linux, and Macintosh. So we wanted you to be familiar with file structure, especially because you'll here and there you'll be dealing with installation, you'll be dealing with getting a better understanding of how the file structure works in Windows. With Windows you normally deal with the executable files, but what similarities and what are the differences? We thought that this was important for you to know. And we talked about the challenge of migrating from Windows to Linux, or and some of the issues that you may face if you've been more used to certain applications in the Windows frameworks or Windows operating system, and you want to know what equivalents exist in Linux. The good thing about Linux is most of the applications you'll be using are actually free of charge. So this is a useful tool that we provided in the magazine and also talked about. Then I also explored how some of our the bigger companies in the world are collaborating with Linux. So these are interesting discussions or pieces of research that you can carry out. Because I think what I think was interesting is what happened was when the big companies realized that Linux was becoming a force, then they sought to collaborate. So we talked about Google, Microsoft, and the collaborations with Linux operating system. Then for the conclusion is where we talked about privacy, the existence of backdoors for quite a lot of software, whether those are hardware backdoors or software backdoors, or the open source philosophy and security in general. I also mentioned in brief the subject of surveillance. Naturally, key people in the subject of journalism and free speech and whistleblowing, all that came out. What I was basically trying to do in this talk that I gave and in this magazine article was to help you understand the bigger picture and the concept of open source code, which is why we featured a section on Richard Stallman and his contribution to the movement. The second part in the magazine is a feature by Founders Freedom group in Kenya, and they have an interesting title, as they normally do. Do you need a tractor or a bus? It's really about aligning structure with strategy, as this enhances efficiency, teamwork, and cost saving. So read that article. What you could do is follow Founders Freedom on LinkedIn, and then you can subscribe to their newsletters. As usual, we also have access to 2 publications from Alert Consulting. That was Dr. Chanda, 2 books that he published and that I put together, or that he wrote. What happened is there were I came across some articles that he had written or some work, and I put it all together, turned them into some publications. So the first is called A Survival Kit for Effective Communication. The second is a glossary of technical terms and acronyms. So those are available on request. These are useful tools for consultants. At least the glossary of technical terms is very useful for consultants. And then the survival kit is really great if you're going to be a communicator, which is generally all of us, whether you're in the workplace, communicating with your children, communicating with your spouse, your loved one, your fiancé, your classroom, people you're teaching, your community, people you meet in the streets. So it's really good, useful content that you'll appreciate, and it's just, I think there are about 12 key points that are summarized in 12 months. So you have one idea that you can think about for the whole month, because this is written with quite a lot of depth. And we give you the option of subscription as well as advertising with us, or taking part in a social media campaign. Then we also carried an advertising piece with MISPA Global Institute. They have really great courses for accounting, fundamentals of accounts with basic bookkeeping, financial statements, taxation in Uganda, accounting with software and fraud control. You can get in touch with MISPA Global Institute on 07087022614. If you're in Uganda, that's +256. So get in touch with MISPA Global Institute. Then we also have a section, of course, on some of our costs for featuring in our magazine, or of course on our podcast. Then we also share our costs for we split it up into basic web design and then more complex web design with content management systems, as well as e-commerce sites, maybe blogs or whatever else you'll be designing. And our process is simple. We've created an approach to how we create or put together our sites. We made some changes after some conversations with people who subscribe to the magazine and some who have more industry experience. But the structure has basically remained the same. The third was the ACVA Private Capital Report. I featured Africa Private Capital Association before. I've also shared some content from their country director. But this was really an examination of the report that released for 2023. What I tried to do is just share key insights that I derived, and also attempted to demystify the report for those of you who are non-technical. So basically defined limited partnerships, general partnerships, defined macroeconomic theory, just gave basics, summarized the key investment or attractive sectors for LPs and GPs. The report has 5 of the most attractive sectors for private capital investment. I also thought about the importance of geopolitics, so I used artificial intelligence to ask about geopolitics and economics or economies. Then the report also talked about how different regions in Africa were affected by private capital investment. So for those of you who are investing in Western Africa, Eastern Africa, Northern Africa, Southern Africa, these numbers are important for you to make your decisions. I also had a section about debt and equity, just basically defining these two ideas. And this came from a site on LinkedIn. Then I also had a section where I talked about the factors that cause the market to go up and down. These are from Investopedia, but these are also useful. I thought that these are also useful because last month we covered cryptocurrency, so I think looking at markets in general and then comparing how markets would react in the crypto world, I think would be an interesting idea to explore. Then we have a table differentiating between general partners and limited partners, and then a small table differentiating between microeconomics and macroeconomics. Then our film recommendation was a series on Netflix called Behind Her Eyes rather. Very great series, left me completely floored in terms of the plot and how it unfolds. Highly recommend it. It's actually, I think, a collaboration with the British, who usually are more low-key but produce very good stuff. My book recommendation is a book by Dr. Clancy Banda. This is the second book I've reviewed with him. I've also hosted him on the podcast. Very well written technical material. These are books that I keep with me as textbooks, but also as guides. I highly recommend his work. Then naturally there's the last 4 months of the magazine, which I won't repeat. I share a poem from my experiences in Zanzibar and Dar es Salaam. You might appreciate that. Then I also share in my restaurant section, Krusties. These guys do an amazing job. Delivery is fast. Their connection with Glovo, I suppose, is also very helpful. So you can either get delivery through Glovo or through the WhatsApp line. The burgers are amazing, juicy burgers, as well as their wraps. They also usually have some very great offers for those of you who want to sample some of their offers. So I highly recommend Krusties. Try them out, and also their costs are very affordable. Now the number is 0706 11110. That's 5 ones. And for delivery, it's 0709 33333. That's 5 threes and a 6. That's the delivery number. So they have wraps. The wrap is called a silverback wrap. And then the burgers are amazing, as well as their fries. Now the other section was, I believe, my final section on mental health. So here I just shared an amazing model that I've kept and I use to this day. It was developed by Basic Needs in the UK, and the model is very helpful when you're trying to help people that have had mental health challenges, or when you're trying to create programs to help people that have had mental health challenges. Then we also share a continuation of the subject that we had last month, which was on the spectrum, which basically covers schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, depression, and anxiety. Then the autism spectrum. This information is useful for those of you who are wishing to learn a little bit more about the struggles that your relatives or family members may be facing. Then definitions of developmental disability, other information about these disorders. This information, I believe, comes from a site called neurotreatment.org, as well as the National Institute of Mental Health. I'm not sure if this is a British organization, but anyhow, the information is useful and is contained in the magazine, as well as on the website that I mentioned before. Definitions of mental illness, challenges in misdiagnosis, a subject that we also tackled in the mental health and wellness section. And then there's an interview with one of the young men who is helping run Benue Capital. Benue Capital launched in Uganda about 2 years ago, if I'm not wrong. And the interview is with Jonathan Lubwama. And the interview was carried out by Luke Sheehan. He's a copywriter with quite a lot of travel experience and experience in copywriting. So these are questions that he was asked. This was a bit different from what I normally do, because as the editor of Intersection magazine and the podcast, I normally have questions I create for my guests, but this was a little bit different. So we featured Luke Sheehan because of his work on the continent, and then made a few adjustments in terms of some advertising for Benue Capital, what they focus on, etc. But you will enjoy this article. So that was it for March 2024. Now, if you listen to Intersection Magazine podcast, about 2 months ago I featured some advice about how to set up your own podcast. Now, if you pay close attention to this particular podcast, you'll notice the sound is a little bit better, and that's because I'm using a microphone that I bought from Dansoft Gamers. It's called a professional condenser microphone, BM800. It also comes with a sound card, a V8S, so the quality is much better. Previously, for the last 2 episodes I recorded using an off-length headset. Now I have to give them a shout out because the off-length headset, I've had it for over 10 years and I've had no problems with it. The only problem I had was I needed to replace the part on between the earpiece, the fiber between the earpiece and the hardware itself. But otherwise, the off-length headset is amazing. It's just, I recommend it. Now, for those of you who I shared with the possibility of setting up a podcast of your own, the condenser is available at Dansoft Gamers, so please look them up. They have a YouTube site, so you can also engage with them on their YouTube if you need ideas about how to use a podcaster, microphone that you've purchased, as well as information about gaming and the games that they have and more of their hardware. I believe they also have lights for studios and for accessories and all sorts of other amazing gadgets. They're located in the heart of Kampala, so please get in touch with them. And then we'll see how we can move from there. Now, in terms of services, we have options for you that are interested in advertising with us or getting mentions in our episodes or sponsoring seasons. Our season is about 3 months, so we'd love to work with you, and so don't hesitate to get in touch with us on our socials, and then we'll be pleased to work together. So thank you for listening, and thank you for subscribing, and we look forward to engaging with you.